Hello, IGN. My name is Jose Otero, and I reviewed Bayonetta 2 recently. Why don't we roll the verdict really quick for you? Every aspect of Bayonetta 2 feels polished and focused. At times, the writing feels ridiculous, but I still love how it plays. The superb pacing and combat are just that good. By the end, I was convinced. The sequel builds on everything that made the original great and delivers one of the most satisfying action games I've ever played. For more on Bayonetta 2, you know where to keep it, right here at IGN. Well, there you have it, gentlemen. A 9.5 on IGN. Clearly an amazing game. I think it's really awesome, but I've said enough about it. Joining me this week is Caleb Lawson and Brian Altano.
What's up?
So, guys, what do you think of Bayonetta 2? I mean, do you agree, disagree? Is this an amazing game?
I think you're spot on. I think this is an amazing game. And, you know, I've been saying now for a few weeks that this is the most fun I've had playing video games this year.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the highest grade I've given this year, easily. What about you, Brian? Do you agree?
Yeah, so it took a little while to sink its claws in me, but Caleb kind of described this moment he had with the original Bayonetta, where people kept telling him to play it and play it and play it, and one day it just clicked, and it was just like this light switch moment, and I had that with Bayonetta the other day, where about 3 or 4 hours in, I was like, okay, I know exactly what this game's trying to do, and exactly what it wants me to do to be awesome at it, and I'm still getting there. But it's really fun to try.
Yeah, and we had an interesting conversation, you and I, recently, where sort of the opening and the cutscenes, they are taking a little too long, and there are some jokes that, you know, it feels like, you could kind of leave this. I mean, this is a lighthearted action game, but once it gets down to the game and what it actually is, and you get past that,
yeah, and that's
holy cow.
That's kind of important to note, too. It's sort of like, so I didn't play a lot of the original Bayonetta, but I kind of figured this is a game that I could sort of jump into, and it would sort of explain things to me. I mean, I don't know how much explaining you really need for a witch woman that fights things with her hair, but it did kind of throw me off how sort of confusing things can be in that game in terms of like, these are the characters, this is what they're doing, this is why you have to do them. It's never really told to me why I have to fight a giant guy with his face on his shield, or why lipstick kisses show up on people's elbows and I start smashing buttons on them. But it's really fun, and I think that's the most important part. So I'm able to get past some of the cutscenes and some of the story stuff to get to the action set pieces, and just watching this character walk around and kick ass is just awesome. Like, it's everything I really want from an action game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. I mean, the story's bonkers, the story's fun. You either buy into it or you don't, honestly, I think. Yeah, but what's cool is it's kind of take it or leave it. I mean, even if the story doesn't tweak you, the gameplay is stellar.
Yeah.
You know, I'm playing through now my third time on Infinite Climax, and I'm not even watching the cutscenes anymore. You know, I'll skip them, but I enjoyed them the first time around. But yeah, I mean, the meat is definitely the fun. That's what this game is about, and it's about like really the challenging yourself to get better. I mean, the game keeps giving, right? Because it, you know, between the scoring system and then all the different difficulty systems. Difficulty settings, it's all about continuing to progress and get better at the game and unlock new moves and new techniques and learn how to fight better. Yeah, I mean, still on my third playthrough, I'm still learning how to play.
Yeah, there's sort of an excellent rhythm to it all, of just sort of this hook of getting out there and doing the dance and beating up everything and chaining your moves in the right way that you can maximize the amount of money you get back from it, and then using that in the store to make your character even better or cooler looking, or new fighting stances or new weapons and stuff like that. There's an item crafting system kind of similar to Resident Evil, which I really like. And I feel like video games it's so important that we keep Japan forever. Like, it's so important to me because I feel like there's this movement to make games more and more realistic. And that's great, but to me, video games are also escapism, and I want to become this powerful person, like a witch that fights with her hair. And the things you can do in that game with just a couple of simple button presses, when you pull them off, you feel awesome. Like, you feel so badass taking on this thing that's like 16 times your size, destroying it, and then these amazing finishing moves. And it's all so fluid and flawless once you actually pull it off. And I never want that to go away. Like, Japan was such a big part of my gaming heritage growing up. And it's sort of sunken it back a little bit, but Bayonetta reminds me why it should always be there.
Yeah, I couldn't help but admire, especially the free-flowing combat. Like, this was weird because I did play Bayonetta, the original, thought it was one of the best action games of all time, and I feel 2 replaces it in every way in terms of pacing. But it was also a game that From the second I jumped into waiting for a level to load, I jumped into practice mode, and I would just sit in there for sometimes 20, 25 minutes at a time saying, okay, where can I take this combo? Where can I take this next combo? How many kicks can I get in, and then understand like the delay for the follow-up move?
Yeah.
And I didn't think the first game grabbed me in that way, and that's how good this core combat is, essentially. But I guess you can't have a discussion about Bayonetta without bringing up some of the hypersexualization that comes with this, right? So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I feel like it was fun in its own lighthearted way. If anything, story bothered me a little bit more than that. But at the same time, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, I mean, so, right, as we've been saying, this is a witch who fights with her hair, and as she does, she gets totally naked and is flaunting everything. And, you know, I mean, the game really puts both her body and her sexuality in your face all the time. And there's two sides to that, right? I think that Bayonetta as a character is a super powerful, awesome, kick-ass character. And I think she owns her sexuality and owns her physicality, and that's awesome. At the same time, I mean, there's definitely a lot of kind of male gaze stuff going on. The best description I saw was, Bayonetta is awesome, she herself is strong, but it's like the game was shot by a pervy cameraman.
Yeah, that, you know what? I was gonna say something similar to that. That actually totally nails it for me. Like, I feel like when you're actually flaunting your moves and not just your curves, and you're fighting things and taking down massive bad guys and chains of enemies, there's this very sort of like feminist empowering thing happening where you're like, this is this badass woman, nothing in this world can touch her. She's amazing. This is great.
And the story's the same way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no love interest. It's all about kind of her kicking ass and saving her friend, and the one male character is kind of the butt of all the jokes.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah. But then she'll finish off a chain of great moves, and it'll go to a cutscene, and the cameraman will like go directly into her butthole.
Yeah.
Like, not even, no, really, like, it zooms right in, and you're like, well, that's unnecessary. So it almost feels like there's this extra force at play there, which is to show the game in a light that I don't think it needed to be shown. I think there's enough there on its own to be really awesome without it being so sexual as the way it is. But as you said, it's not like, she's not like going, it's her bodies, but she's not like going around like having sex with tons of people. There's not like, there's no love interest. The only thing that's sort of weird about the entire thing is the game does start with her on a kind of messed up shopping trip in New York City, which is like a bizarre Sex in the City.
I mean, we're a bunch of dudes. I think it's good that we're having this conversation, but I'd love to hear, obviously, other perspectives
100%.
as well.
Yeah. I know, for example, when my fiance walked in the room, she was like, what is this? And I had a hard time explaining what that is, besides saying it's a witch that fights with her.
But I think there's a good explanation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Well, let us know what you think of Bayonetta in the comments. And for more coverage of Bayonetta 2, make sure you keep it right here at IGN.